the whole point. I think there's no question that we're living in a very unhappy moment, for to not say disastrous, and especially in Brazil. As I said during the talk today, our universities are being shut down, and in fact social sciences have been singled out to lead the shutting down. The government is pulling out finances all over the place, most particularly for the social sciences. And there's something even worse. I heard somebody speaking the other day about the death of expertise. And it's not just in Brazil. They were referring to the United States. But it's a question like, what's our role anymore? We have tried for so long, and I think most of us, especially linked to AFIN and in anthropology and in academic life, we're not doing it just to be some kind of admired intellectual. We really want to have a place in our society, contributing. And there was a time when we had that feeling. I've had fantastic partners in dialogue that make decisions, that sometimes they agree with me, I agree with them, sometimes not. But we were always building together through honest dialogue. And now one has the feeling that there's no room for dialogue anymore. There's no room for criticism. Anything that's taken as a kind of reservation, or maybe this could be improved, is taken to be a violent criticism, and you are immediately removed from the circumstances, from the situation. I think, at least in Brazil, I'm feeling that at the moment, our whole vocation is being put into question. And I would say, rather than to be desperate or to lament this fact, together with many of my extremely energetic and colleagues at the moment, we are looking for ways. We are asking ourselves how we can fit in, not with radicalism necessarily. There are all kinds of possible ways, but we are looking very hard to regroup forces in a practical way in order to carry on with our students that are just as involved as they ever were, just as full of hopes, and with people in government, that it's never a completely homogeneous slate. There are always people in government also that are ready to interact. Sorry I talk so much, but it's really a very complicated question.
Yeah.
We have to extend our embrace to scholars and to activists and to concerned professionals throughout the world. However, I want to insist that in Brazil, we have a lot of very intelligent, sophisticated, and thoughtful people that, just as we are seeking a place in the present conjunction to find out where we can fit in and what we can still do. There are people that might say we refuse to collaborate. I think it depends very much on which issue we're talking about. But certainly we count on international fellowhood and support for many of our objections to the Bolsonaro government's extreme policy. We feel that international pressure may do more good than many of the objections we are raising within Brazil. And I'm convinced that anything like child protection, international adoption, all these policies, we have to compare, we have to think, we have to share our knowledge, and at the same time, appreciate the specific circumstances and possibilities that exist in each setting. And I think we share that spirit, and I want to be optimistic. I think we have to be optimistic for our students' sake, because there are lots of people. So far, we still have a big demand in social sciences in Brazil. To some extent, the suppression of social scientists is making young people more interested than ever. So there is a possibility of trying to work in different possible spaces. And as I must insist, I have many, many younger colleagues in the professional field that are working through our professional associations to open spaces, to establish lobbies that will have some effect, and not to simply throw our hands up and cry and say, what a terrible situation. I'll tell you, I really believe in science and technology studies have led us to a guy called Ludwig von Fleck, who talks about styles of reasoning that are long-term through history. And I realize that the very conservative family-oriented policies, which we call completely moralistic, is a certain style of reasoning that does, sometimes it flourishes and sometimes it gets smaller. And I feel the same thing about the way I think and the way I believe, and I'm part of a very strong tradition of what I call progressive thought, and there might be moments of backpedaling but I feel that the circumstances will change, and that it's very important to maintain and adapt and change and question what we've been doing and to enrich what we're doing, but not to think it's over, we have to throw in the towel and go home. I think we keep the spirit alive, and who knows how long it's going to take. For example, in Brazil, it might be a short while, it might be longer, but one way or the other, we have to have strategies, and we believe in what we're doing. We have convictions that include emotional, political, and we hope a very rigorous, analytical approach to reality. And that's something that I don't ever want to forget. We work hard in academia. We take seriously what we're doing. We spend long hours, months, years, working on what we're doing. It's not simply common sense that we've picked up someplace because it pleases people. And I think this spirit of hard work and believing that it's worth going after the data, it's worth doing field research, it's worth that we really want to know the reality with which we're dealing, is a spirit that we have to keep alive in academia. So that's where we are. I'm in extreme admiration of what you've done here from the very beginning. I've seen Diana build this up, and all the team. I think there's a real team spirit here that is absolutely admirable and fundamental for what you're doing. There's also an openness, I think, about the way you do things. So it's not just narrow academia. And that's something I really admire from afar, because in Brazil, our academic life is much more ivory tower kind of, and when you get to do the extension projects, they're admired, but they don't count on our point system, okay? And I think AFIN, following the convictions of the organizers has really managed to put together a combination of academic excellence and provocative thought with interaction and intervention in real life. I must say, when I was coming here, because it had been a while since I'd been to AFIN, and I was thinking, oh, I might be in front of a lot of practitioners that are they won't necessarily welcome questioning. And all you have to do is open the program that's been organized and the previous program and look at the newsletters of AFIN. And you realize that questioning is a fundamental part of everything you do. And you don't look down and you're not condescending to people that come from outside academia and they're in the professional area. You speak in a way as equals, but with the courage to provoke each other. And I think that's something very special. And the fact that you've opened up to all these different areas, new reproductive technologies, abortion, and so many questions of care. We have all this in common. So in a way, even though I'm not always around, when I look about what's happening, I realize that we've gone and forward in a bit in the same direction. And that's a wonderful feeling to have these partners that you could feel you can admire and rely upon for being partners in dialogue. One reason I said I thought Laura Briggs should have been here is because I really loved her book, Somebody's Children. I loved her book because it's got a personal feeling to it. It mixes the personal and the political and the private and excellent academic research. But there are wonderful people. Kay Johnson, that I'm so sorry to hear that she's died. All of our colleagues that are working in this field. More recently, I'm citing an awful lot of the group because I was into science and technology, but care and feminist studies as well. So I'm working a little bit on what they call the post-materialist feminist side that comes down from Donna Haraway. And I don't know if this Dutch group would consider itself within Haraway's tradition, to some extent, no doubt. There's the anthropologist author Anne-Marie Moll that works on care. She has a background in philosophy, but she went into the practice of care. And there's one thing I absolutely love about her work, and she said it very clearly, what many other people have said in different ways, is that problems don't always have a consensual solution. There are different ways, and ways that can be considered good ways of solving a problem. And these different ways may be incompatible between them. And so when we're working with an on-the-ground practical problem and we care about the results and the people that we're dealing with, we have to keep this in mind, that we might have to make some difficult decisions, knowing that we're not heroes, knowing that we have not come up with a magic bullet that government planners very often expect from us. And I think this fact of recognizing the complexity of the situations we're trying to deal with is something that's brought me a lot of new maturity through reading the work of this particular author and her team of researchers.